Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Inclusive Consumer, your favorite podcast covering topics at the forefront of every modern marketer's mind: strategy, social media, content, growth, influencer partnerships, demographic, psychographic, and of course, target marketing. Whether you are a marketing leader or a marketing enthusiast, this podcast is for you. I'm Deborah Walton, your podcast host. I'm the founder and managing partner of Inclusion by Design Co., a consulting firm specializing in inclusive strategy, inclusive marketing, and inclusive product consulting to help organizations increase their revenue and brand reach. My pronouns are she and her. I'm an African American woman with brown skin, dark brown curly hair, dark brown eyes, and I am wearing a navy blouse with a pink pearl necklace in front of a branded background for the Inclusive Consumer Podcast. It is a pink background with the Inclusive Consumer Podcast logo in the top corner. And for those of you unfamiliar with that practice, that is a visual description. We want to ensure that listeners from the blind and low vision communities have an inclusive experience, especially when tuning into this podcast on YouTube. As we get started, I want to share a land acknowledgement statement. I acknowledge that I am on the ancestral lands of the Cherokee and Shawnee people. I acknowledge these tribes and nations as the rightful and traditional protectors and caretakers of these lands. I encourage you to learn more about the lands you are on and reflect on your own place in this work. So, this podcast is titled The Inclusive Consumer, and you may be wondering, what is the inclusive consumer? Today's consumers are not going to buy the first product or service they come across. The modern consumer is inclusive. They care about their identity and their culture, and also the identities and cultures of others. And they expect to see these companies not only respecting, but also celebrating the dynamic humanity that is reflected in the modern world. So today's modern consumer is the inclusive consumer. Now, on to this podcast episode. Today, I'm joined by Tran, the founder and CEO of Tran UGC, and our topic of discussion is Gen Z marketing the right way. Let's get this marketing party started. Let me tell you a little bit more about Tran. One day, Tran stumbled upon the concept of UGC creation while watching TikTok and realized that she had the skills to make it happen. With over 4 years of digital marketing experience, Tran is a seasoned user-generated content creator with expertise in paid media and social creative strategy for over 200 brands in over 500 campaigns. Tran's comprehensive skill set spans the realms of direct response video editing, creative ideation, creator sourcing, and holistic brand strategy and development. Tran, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me on.
So exciting to have you here today. So let's talk a little bit about some data metrics focused on the United States population. Born between 1997 and 2012, Gen Z represents about 20% of the US population based on 2023 US Census data. In 2021, Bloomberg cited data from Gen Z Planet estimating the cohort had over 360 billion with a B, in buying and spending power, and a number that has certainly grown more as Gen Zers continue to enter the workforce. Gen Z consumers have strong opinions about the world they live in, and they aren't afraid to voice them. Gen Zers are known for their social responsibility, dedication to social and political issues, and their demand for authenticity when it comes to brands and advertising. Based on eMarketer research, the top 3 causes that Gen Zers want brands they shop at to support include mental health, the environment and climate change, as well as sustainability, racial, and also gender equity. We know that generational marketing is important and the inclusion matters. So today, let's talk about how to get it right. Tran, I'm so excited to hear your perspective on Gen Z marketing, and our listeners know that your insight is valuable and you are one person, you're an individual. You don't speak for your entire generation. So we're going to have some fun with this conversation today. So my first question for you, Tran, as a Gen Zer, what is a turnoff to you? What is one thing that you've seen a brand do that was distasteful or unsuccessful in their marketing efforts when trying to reach a Gen Z audience?
Yeah, so I think because of TikTok and how successful it has been, and the fact that Gen Z is a huge demographic on there, there's just been a lot of more pressure on brands to be more transparent with their business practices. Um, the things that you mentioned too, like sustainability. I would say though, there are a lot of brands, like you probably won't be able to not find any statement about sustainability on a brand's website. All brands are gonna have that on there, but when you actually like read through what their claims are, sometimes they're just putting out a lot of buzzwords to try to have that portion of sustainability on their website. Um, so I do find that kind of greenwashing a little bit distasteful too. Like, for example, I've seen this one particularly popular fast fashion company claim sustainability on their website to basically say that, instead of mass producing clothes, they're just making as many as they have orders for, and that's sustainable because it produces less waste. And while that technically can be true, like fast fashion, like promoting mass buying of super cheap clothing that goes out of style very fast, to, make you buy more in less time, like that inherently is not a sustainable practice. So sometimes I just kind of find it ironic when brands do that.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, Tran. And I think that perspective is so valuable for the marketers listening to this conversation because a lot of brands have done that in the past and it's been acceptable. It's been okay to say one thing, to have lip service and just post something on a website and not really back it up with actions. And that is no longer the case. And so, as the climate is changing with the expectations of consumers, marketers have to realize that what they are doing has to change as well. So I think that's such great insight for the marketers listening today. So, Tran, what is your favorite social media platform to connect with your audience as a Gen Z influencer yourself?
Yeah, so what used to be TikTok, actually, I thought that was kind of where I started on. And before I was on there, I was actually pretty against social media, but then I kind of saw there's like a good side of it. Um, I don't know, there's a lot of discourse that you can create on TikTok that you don't really see on any other platform. I will say though, since they implemented TikTok Shop, it's been too like consumerism pushy to me. So now I've transitioned to Instagram. But yeah, that's kind of my top two.
Okay, that's fair. Absolutely. And I think your point around the shop, that really did change the dynamic. It changed not only a lot of the content that was being posted, but the engagement that was happening with content and the overall messaging, because we've definitely seen a shift on the platform since that feature was added. And what's interesting is with the TikTok shop, now a lot of other social media platforms are looking to incorporate direct shopping within their platforms as well. And so I think it'll be really interesting to watch those evolutions as the time goes on because when one social media platform does something and it's deemed as successful, there's all the other followers that are trying to replicate their results and what they're doing.
Yeah, it's like a waterfall effect. You see one person like effectively doing it, and then the rest does it, and it just completely changes the dynamic of how you even use the platform, Like maybe there are some important conversations happening, but now they're kind of getting pushed because like brands just want to make money.
Yeah, and for all the marketers out there listening, you don't always have to push a product or push a service in order to increase your revenue, right? So when marketers are looking to increase brand loyalty, they can do that without having a very hard sales message to buy the widget and, start sharing more benefits and more features about the widget. So there are lots of ways that marketers can really leverage branding and brand strategy in order to really grow the revenue without having such hard and really aggressive messaging around product pushing. So to your point, Tran, I think there's a great opportunity for marketers to get it right and to do better in that space.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Trim, what are two questions that you ask marketing or brand teams before you decide to collaborate with a company on a particular project?
Yeah, so obviously, like I kind of have to do a lot of upfront market research into the brand to kind of decide whether or not their company values and products even align with mine. But maybe on like a more purely professional line, I usually always ask them, like what's their current like target messaging buckets and what their top performers have been. And like on a creative strategy standpoint, that just kind of helps me conceptualize and understand how built out their current marketing strategy is and like how much help that they're going to require from me. Yeah, that's kind of like my top two.
Awesome. And the fact that you're doing the research around their values and what they're saying, what they're doing, that connection is really important to make because a lot of marketers, again, are missing the mark on this. They are really failing to make the connection between what they're saying, these claims, and then what they're actually doing. So their messaging, their values, all of that has to be aligned with the actions that they're taking. And it's really great to hear that you're looking for that level of alignment and that connection because that's important.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we'd love to hear a story about you working on one of your favorite projects as an influencer. Can you tell us what it was and why it was your favorite?
Yeah, so typically I'm actually not doing so much influencing, although I have taken like influencer campaigns. So the one that like I still think about to this day, it was actually for UGC. So basically like content that brands post onto their profiles in order to build community and build awareness. Um yeah, so it was one of the first ever paid deals I ever had. It was for a brand that I've been using ever since I was like a little girl, like Shiseido. So they reached out to me for a couple UGC videos for their organic socials and just to like promote a skincare product. But at the time, I was a little bit newer and I was trying out more like obscure storytelling UGC products, sorry, UGC concepts. And yeah, just kind of like odd storytelling moments where you kind of like incorporate some humor. So the concept that I delivered for them was called Asians Don't Raisin. And it ended up being like one of their highest top performing organic concepts like on their page. And it was also one of the first times that I posted a video for a brand that like went that viral at the time. So I ended up posting that onto my page as kind of just like a teaching moment for other creators, analytically kind of breaking it down how to come off more I guess like relatable to consumers. So it's been like 2 years since that post, and actually I still get inbounds from some clients saying that like it was because of that video that they initially found me and maybe they thought it was really witty, so they trusted me enough to like insert my own personality into the content for them. So yeah, it was a really fun concept that reaps a lot of benefits for me to this day. So
Love it. I love that you talked about authenticity, being relatable, and humor. There's a lot of power in all three of those things. People want to make a connection with someone, and that's what followers do. They have a connection with the person they're following, and that's why they're following. That's why they're engaged in the content. That's why they read, watch, add comments, share, repost. That really is all about the connection. So you were able to execute that flawlessly and also, like you said, teach other content creators how to foster those meaningful connections. So that's really powerful.
thank you.
You're welcome. So, what is one brand that you think is marketing to Gen Z the right way and is a great example for other brands to be inspired by?
Um, there's a lot of good brands out there, but one that I always look to for like content inspo and also just to like get, like a good little dopamine hit is Scrub Daddy, like the little sponge. So their marketing is honestly so genius, I think, because it's really simple. It uses primarily humor and a lot of memes, like a lot of culturally relevant moments that just make it a more lighthearted product. And I think consumers connect a lot more with that, like regardless of what the product is, if brands just put in a little bit more effort to like try to not be so salesy, just like get on their level and, make them laugh. So yeah, I really like Scrub Daddy.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And we always love to laugh, right? Like there's an opportunity to heal in laughter, to be inspired, to have a moment where you can relax, to get more energy. Laughter is really powerful. And so there's a lot of ways that brands can be leveraging humor in their content. And like you said, there's a really big opportunity for marketers to leverage it more and also really intertwining those culturally relevant moments rather than just letting them pass by. You can leverage, current news and you can leverage what's happening in the world around us. And so that's really great to hear that they are doing it so well.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
I believe inclusive marketing is the future. Right now, brands are not really implementing it in a mainstream way, but I think it's coming. So, in one word, what does inclusive marketing mean to you?
In one word? Oh my god.
Just one.
Oh my goodness.
Or maybe a phrase, a word,
Yeah,
a phrase, a sentence. What does inclusive marketing mean to you?
maybe marketing that touches everyone. I mean, inclusive, that already is like a defining word in and of itself, you know? So that's kind of what comes to mind when you think about that too. I actually, do you mind if I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I was been having these conversations about this lately, more about, I guess, like marketing as a whole and like our personal practices as a country in order to push that. So, for you as like someone who is an inclusive marketer, how do you kind of navigate the labels? Because I almost feel like here in America, we love to label things. You label things because, it makes it relevant for a certain group of people. People love feeling like they're part of the tribe. And do you feel like part of inclusivity for some brands is that they just want to throw out a label so that they can just push out more sales, you know? Like, is it a marketing tactic to a certain degree?
Yeah. So when we get to the heart of inclusive marketing, my point of view around it is that it's a really great opportunity for marketers to have two different tactics, two different strategies in order to really win. So one is looking at being inclusive to have a visual, a cultural, a messaging, tonality, the perspective across the different pillars of traditional marketing that is inclusive, right? So you're not saying something to disrespect or dehumanize someone or a particular group. So it's really less about labeling and more about the overall execution of really leveraging those traditional marketing pillars. The other aspect and the other strategy is really around having targeted campaigns and targeted messaging to different groups without necessarily using a label. So it could be like the example you shared with Shishido. You were able to create that content that was really meaningful, really relevant, and you didn't have to label yourself, hey, I'm a Gen Z influencer. You were able to just show up and to authentically be who you were. And that was communicated in the content that you created. And so that's a really powerful way for brands to think about how to leverage inclusive marketing. Because in the past, what we have seen is there really weren't a lot of brands leveraging inclusive marketing. It was called multicultural marketing. It was all about race. And the lion's share of that was really focused on Hispanic and Latino communities, right? And so now we're looking at opportunities for brands to really do more and go beyond race and ethnicity when trying to connect with consumers in a really meaningful way.
Wow, you put that so beautifully.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's a fun conversation to have. And I think it's a really great opportunity for marketers to explore and learn about this space and to really leverage it to start actually implementing
Yeah,
inclusive marketing.
yeah, I think it's so great that you are kind of spearheading this conversation and all of the talk that most people do like that just adds to yeah, like the like brands being a little bit more conscious and like not just what they do, but how they market to people and like the messaging that they actually put out there to like define their values. Um so yeah, thanks for kind of opening this discourse and making it, I guess like more known to people too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for what you're doing. And I know that you not only you started out creating content, and that's not the only thing you do. You also teach content creators how to really leverage and be in the UGC space. So do you want to share any tips for any of the content creators out there listening that are wanting to just get started, especially if they are Gen Zers?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand actually how nuanced UGC creation can be. And a lot of people, they kind of overthink it. They think of the traditional way of marketing in which it's very infomercially. You ask a question, do you experience troubles with this? And now, I think Gen Zers are a lot more cognizant of traditional salesy tactics, and it just doesn't resonate with them anymore. And the easiest way to market to a Gen Z population is literally just by speaking from your own experience, like saying things in first person, I, me, my, like, or even like second person, you, you're this, Um, it creates more of like a human connective bridge, and Gen Zers relate a lot more and resonate a lot more with personal experiences rather than just like straight up salesy tactics, I think. So, yeah, that's kind of like my tip to be a better content creator, and also it's easier to speak on your own behalf.
Wonderful. That's awesome. And I think that is the perfect note to end on. That was so well put, Tran, because the theme from this conversation that I'm really picking up on is the power of being relatable. And that really comes from authenticity. So that's the big opportunity for marketers today when they're looking to grow, when they're looking to build and increase their brand loyalty, grow their revenue, grow their market share. This is what it comes down to, and this is the challenge, that if they are able to be more relatable with authenticity, they will win the inclusive consumer.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the show, Tran. I've got all of Tran's links in the description, so you'll be able to find and follow Tran in the description box. And so thank you so much for this amazing conversation.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for having me on, and you have an amazing day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, if you liked this episode of The Inclusive Consumer, please subscribe, write us a review, and tell a friend. And if you need help facing your marketing challenges, whether you're launching a new product, wanting to increase your revenue, brand reach, or are just hitting the reset button on your marketing plan, we can help. Go to inclusionbydesignco.com/contact-us to schedule a free strategy session with a homepage, website audit, or social media profile audit. We look forward to hearing with you. And so, with that, we will conclude this podcast episode and chat with you in the next one. Bye.